Now, Syrian army says, meanwhile, Israel has launched missile attacks on a Syrian military site north of al-Nayrab airport in the countryside of Aleppo. Raids caused some material damage. Earlier, our correspondent Mohammed Ali out of Damascus gave us the latest on this.
The Syrian military confirmed the news, and an official Syrian military source spoke about it, saying, and I quote, the Zionist enemy continues its desperate attempts to support defeated terrorist groups in al-Qunaytra and Dar'a in southern Syria, and attacks with its missiles one of our military sites north of al-Nayrab airport, causing only material damage. This was the statement that came out from the Syrian official military source following this new Israeli strike on the area north of al-Nayrab, a military site. It was not actually specified if there were Israeli fighter jets that violated Syria's airspace, but it was confirmed that it was Israeli missiles. Definitely, there have been repeated Israeli attacks recently. In the past couple of weeks, there were several similar Israeli attacks, strikes on Syrian military sites. In particular, the latest was before that, of course, the one of today. It was on a Syrian military position near Hadar in al-Qunaytra in southern Syria, close to the separation line with the occupied Golan. Before that, there was also an Israeli attack on the T4 military airport in central Syria.
And joining us now out of Ohio for more on the story is Mr. Gordon Duff, senior editor at Veterans Today. Hello, Mr. Duff. Thanks for joining us back on the program, sir. And now we've heard, Tel Aviv carry out numerous strikes just across Golan Heights in the southern Syria. What the heck are they doing this far away up there in the Aleppo countryside?
Well, theoretically, this attack was in response to an incursion by a Syrian drone into Syrian territory that the Israelis considered too close to their military facilities. The interesting point about this, of course, is that the drone was a Russian drone, and they shot down a Russian drone over Syria and are now retaliating against the Syrians. Well, what's really going on here is that we're only a few hours from a Helsinki summit conference between Putin and Trump, and there's this great fear that well, everyone has a fear of what's going on in this conference. Frankly, anything could happen, but is Syria going to be on the table there? And the Israelis are very fearful they could be sold down the river. The Syrian people are very frightened as well. And this is playing out to make sure that this war in Syria ends up on the table and is discussed between Trump and Putin. And these attacks, which are on the Israelis' part, there is nothing militarily they can do to stop this Syrian juggernaut. The rats are fleeing Syria left and right. Israel has no game to play, no hand to play. And all they're trying to do is to gain some room at the conference table in Helsinki. It's only a week ago Netanyahu was up making his case with President Putin, and they're looking for mercy up there.
And Mr. Duff, how come over the years and increasingly over the last year and a half, with all the Israeli strikes that we report, why is it we never hear about Israel striking ISIS or Daesh positions, al-Nusra Front positions, or 30 other extremist groups, various groups that are operating on Syrian soil to topple the Syrian government? Not once have we reported an Israeli strike on one of those groups. Why?
Well, I've sat down in Damascus in the command bunker for certainly the security forces, and I've looked at their records of what they found, and no one announces that Israeli intelligence officers are regularly with ISIS. They're regularly with al-Qaeda. Israeli prisoners have been, including one brigadier general, was bought back by Israel for millions of dollars after being captured near Deir ez-Zor. There's a secret Israeli involvement that never hits the press until, well, right now. Nobody wants to really admit how far Israel has been involved. You know, we see them anytime the Syrian army has been crushing ISIS. We see the Israeli retaliation, either to cover an ISIS attack or to cover an ISIS surrender. You know, the Israeli Air Force has always been the ISIS and Al-Qaeda Air Force. We've all known this, and we've all been pushed to having to keep these admissions and keep these facts on the back burner. And maybe that's going to come to an end.
I want to thank you for joining us and for your input, sir. Mr. Gordon Duff there, senior editor at Veterans Today, joining us out of the U.S. state of Ohio.